Every time life presents us with a difficulty, a limit, it's interesting that we face this difficulty, this limit, with a desire to learn. What does that difficult moment want to teach us? Personally, I think it's the only way. What do we have to? Make it worth it? The suffering we suffer, the tears we cry, the pain we endure, the difficulty? It may seem insurmountable at first, too big. I remember that in the most painful moments of my life, I always lived with the temptation to think that it was bigger than me. That's natural. We feel fear. It's an instinct. It's the best. It's one. It's a feeling that first occurs to us. In times of difficulty, I put it in, and everything that is part of fear, insecurity, is a human. No matter how brave we are in life, we will go through situations. We will face realities that will undermine our courage, and we all have the right to say we are afraid. It's a way we have of recruiting the truth, because from the moment we recruit our truth, and if it places me, if this truth highlights the other as someone who is afraid, then I am ready for the battle. Why the truth? It's the starting point for every fight. I need to know what I have, both as resources to fight, and also what I need to face. Is truth that clarifies, because sometimes when we recruit, in fact, we begin to see what scares us so much in a different way. Sometimes it's not as big as we think. What is it? But fear makes us think it is. I have a way of interpreting that. In fact, it's in my book, The Disciple of the Dawn. That moment that Abraham had to live on Mount Moriah. When did he understand that God was asking him to sacrifice his son Isaac? I've always been very bothered by this passage. I've always found it strange that God, a God of love, could ask a man to sacrifice his son Isaac, to show him love, to show him fidelity in other ways. Are there other ways to show this? By committing murder. To demonstrate that I'm faithful to God, I'll commit an act. What's worse than being unfaithful? Anyway, there are many interpretations for this passage, but I was much more reconciled with this idea that at that moment the best, I was much more comforted with another interpretation that I found for it, that what, in fact, Abraham had at that moment was fear. And why was he afraid? Exactly what occurred to him. God will ask me to sacrifice what I have most sacred in this life, my son. He was the fruit of a way of thinking. Abraham was a religious person, so he was certainly influenced by the speeches he heard throughout his life about what God usually asks of us, what is most sacred to us. And he, afraid that what God asked of his son was exactly what he heard, and the mistake only disappeared when he began to lower the blade to sacrifice his son. And he certainly asked himself, my God, what am I doing? It is not possible that you, being a God of love, ask me to sacrifice my son. I think I'm wrong. So to me, it sounds much more interesting to think. Wasn't it God who asked this of Isaac? Forgive Abraham, who sacrificed his son Isaac. But it was Abraham who, driven by fear, misheard what was supposed to be done. Sometimes, my people, we live in the exact same situation. We are faced with certain reality, and our fear is so great, it's so great, that it makes us misunderstand that reality that is before us. That's why it's necessary to recruit the truth. The truth will undo all our mistakes so that we have an exact understanding of what we need to face. Sometimes we think we're losing a lot, and it's not so much. But when that presents itself to us, before our eyes, we think we'll never be able to get back on our feet. We think that what is being ripped away from us, is too great for us to be able to continue without it, and suddenly, no. I've met people, for example, who lost their jobs. I know we are in a time of high unemployment, and we get very scared when we lack what was already certain. But how many people have I also met who only after losing that job, that position they had, did they actually discover, here they came here. They came into this world. They were stuck, tied down in that routine, which did not change. They never stopped recruiting what they had. And suddenly they got used to it, with the little they were offering. Because sometimes we have the illusion that we offer to others, that this is the first step. No, it is not. This is the second. The first we recruit within ourselves and offer ourselves. Everything I can as a person, I recruit daily and often myself, because I am the first instance that experiences what I can. All my possibilities. Just today I tweeted about this, didn't I? That's self-love. It is a resource of our emotional intelligence that does not allow us to make comparisons with others. Look at that person as they are much more beautiful than me, as they are much more intelligent, as they are much more capable. This is too unfair. It is not fair to look at the other and compare yourself, because the other person won't. They will never be like you, because they are someone else. And you will never be like them, because you are someone else. Now, occupy yourself with what you can offer. Stop paying so much attention to what the other has already offered, he said, and then he offered his others. Offer it to others, and you will discover what you can discover within yourself. And self-love is precisely this first movement. It is the first instance of love that I, personally, like to understand as a gift that God gave me. St. Augustine speaks about it in such a sophisticated and simple way at the same time. He loved us so that we would have love. With what to love? So, self-love, this first reserve of love that we receive, which functions as a kind of effective spiritual immunity. I experience love with myself. I take care of myself. I am concerned about my health. I am zealous for my body. I am zealous for what enters my ears, which will influence my mind. I don't make a point of holding grudges. Grudges. Why? Because they are spoiled feelings. That don't edify, so have respect for me. I am the territory of the first protection. I am the one who is offering myself here at this moment, in a very intimate reality, very intimate. That's why I understand that this is the first outpouring of love that I received, which is called self-love. In this self-love, God loves me, protects me, safeguards me. He gives me courage to face those who challenge my dignity, those who don't want to see me as someone of value. So this is the first moment in which I am gathering everything that is my own, everything that, since it is part of my idiosyncrasy, a difficult word. Isn't it idiosyncrasy? What is it? Everything that concerns me? Of everything that concerns the being that you are, your characteristics, your possibilities, your limits, then, in this first experience of self-love, I create this circle of protection. I love myself because God loves me. God loves me, and he helps me to love myself too, to spoon, to gather myself. And every day, in an exercise of self-love, I search within myself everything that is necessary for me to live better. Then I offer myself. In a first movement of love, I offer myself what is most precious to me, and only then do I begin to offer to others. This experience, my people, is fruitful, and it is this that fulfills us. So, sometimes a difficulty comes and wakes us up, so we realize that we have stopped digging the earth of our essence, that we have become accustomed to the little that job, that role, that group of friends was recruiting me. You look at that transfer, you look at that loss, and the first moment, at first, what is the temptation? To think, I won't survive outside of what I'm already used to, and suddenly, this transfer, this loss, this change is just a knock on the door. That God is making a point of coming personally, knocking on the door of your life, of your heart, so that you realize that you are much more than you imagine yourself to be, that you haven't yet offered yourself even half of what you can offer. And why haven't you offered yourself yet? Because you haven't discovered it yet. You haven't revealed it to yourself yet. Of course, it's natural that you haven't offered it to others either. You don't know you have it. How can you offer someone else something you don't even know you have? But sometimes we discover what we have through the very movement of life. I repeat, through a loss, through a change that at first seems to scare us. But then it proves to be absolutely fruitful, because it opened our minds, our hearts, our way of feeling and thinking, the being we are and the being we can still be. I, personally, have lived through many moments when I thought I couldn't bear it. First, I'm dramatic, right? I'm naturally dramatic. I have, as Adelia Prado says, an enormous capacity to dramatize the smallest events. It's a characteristic of mine, that I learned to deal with everyday life. I have that tendency to think that there's no solution, that now, but no. So, by taming this way of being, I learned that I need to embrace what life is offering me. And I was very surprised. in situations that I thought that they were working against me. And suddenly I discovered that from them, I would have the opportunity to have access to my heart in a very new way. I personally think that it's very positive for us to live with people, for example, who help us have new access to our heart. When we are very addicted to the way others see us, we run the risk of seeing ourselves in an addicted way too, because the other always sees us the same way. This sometimes paralyzes our ability to see ourselves differently. It could be that you are addicted to the way you see yourself, because the others around you always come the same way. And sometimes, a change. Suddenly, you discover a new person who launched a new look at you, which asked me a fundamental question, which made me think about what you hadn't thought about yourself before. It's so interesting when we dig in the earth of the heart and discover that there is something new there, something seen by someone else who was on the outside. How precious are these people in our lives, because they see what we hadn't yet seen. As Jesus did in the lives of many people, did he see what those people hadn't yet seen? Did he find within them a wealth that they didn't yet know how to offer? And why didn't they yet know how to offer themselves? They were deprived of being able to offer this to others. Therefore, don't be afraid of your difficulties. Don't be afraid of your losses. Don't be afraid of your conflicts. All that, which at first may seem contrary to you, can be a happy opportunity, a good access to what you don't yet know about yourself. There is a strength that is still hidden and which will come to the surface as you allow your own conflicting reality to touch you, help, read reason, to seek what you didn't know you had. Allow today's difficulty, now suffering, this moment's terror to lead you to your deepest truth. Where are your values? Where are your qualities that you may have forgotten? Where are the qualities that, suddenly, by your way of living, by your way of building your life, your routine, you ended up forgetting that you had them? Nothing can impoverish us more than possessing riches and not having the disposition for these riches. Nothing can impoverish us more than being the owners of great riches that we are unaware of. Within the heart, there are so many riches. There are so many precious stones, but we must seek them. It is not enough to have them. We must use them. It is not enough to have riches. You must know, instrumentalize all of this. Sometimes, my people, we just need to wake up. And sometimes, this awakening is intimately linked to a change. There is a discomfort that we need to face. I like to say that birth doesn't happen only once in a lifetime. I came into the world because I was expelled from my mother's womb, who, driven by biological wisdom, threw me out. Enough. The time for me to be here has passed, and it's good that I was expelled. Who then has to face many other expulsions? From the womb of life, when I thought I had already found my place, the contractions arrived. Events expelled me, and I needed to find a new way of being Fabio. And how does this enrich us? When you realize that life in movements and contractions is expelling you from that reality, from that situation, before lamenting, think about the possibility that these contractions, this expulsion, will provide you a new way of being. You, and that is absolutely wonderful. Having the opportunity to be you in a new way, that is like being born, that is like being reborn.